She mouths it so quietly you almost miss it. 2 words, no sound. Just the shape of them on her lips. Help me. You've officiated 47 weddings. You have seen nervous brides. You have seen crying brides. You have seen one woman projectile vomit into a bouquet of peonies 10 seconds before her vows. You are standing at the front of a ballroom with 200 people watching you. The groom is 2 feet away. Her parents are in the front row. And the woman in the dress just asked you for help. You have maybe 3 seconds to decide what to do. And you do what any rational professional would do. You keep reading from the paper. Let me back up. You got into wedding officiating the way a lot of people do. Someone asked you to do their ceremony. You said yes. You did a terrible job. You cried twice, mispronounced the groom's last name, and forgot to say, "You may kiss the bride." They still thank you for it every year. But that was 10 years ago. Now this is what you do. Ceremonies, elopements, vow renewals. You have a website, you have a rating on the knot, you have a folder on your laptop labeled Ceremony Templates, with 23 subfolders sorted by vibe. You know what nervous looks like, you know what cold feet look like, you know what I'm about to cry and I cannot breathe looks like. You did not know what this looked like, and you wouldn't understand what it actually was until the 2 of you were alone in a room hours later. Her name was Cara. She'd hired you 8 months earlier. You'd done 2 prep calls, 1 ceremony rehearsal, and exchanged maybe 40 emails about the exact wording of the vows. She was thorough. She was organized. She had opinions about fonts on the printed programs. She wanted the word forever used exactly twice, not 3 times, because she told you 3 felt desperate. Her fiancé, Daniel, had been on one of the prep calls. He seemed fine, nice enough. He laughed at his own jokes a beat too late, which you'd noticed before but never thought much about. You hadn't thought much about Daniel between then and now. That was about to change. The day of the wedding, you arrived at the venue an hour early, the way you always do. Checked the sound system, confirmed the playlist with the coordinator, went over the ceremony program one more time. Everything was normal. The coordinator, a woman named Bev, who had been doing this for 22 years and had the energy of someone who has seen every possible thing go wrong and is completely at peace with that, pulled you aside around 4 o'clock. "The bride's running a little behind," she said. You said that was fine. "She's, Bev paused in a way that Bev did not usually pause. "She's in the bridal suite with her mom. They've been in there a while." You said that was also fine. Brides are in bridal suites. That's where they go. Bev nodded and went back to her clipboard, but she did not look like a woman who thought it was fine. The ceremony started at 5. At 4:58, Cara came out. She looked beautiful. She had this long cathedral veil and a fitted dress, and she was carrying white garden roses that her grandmother had grown. You know that because she told you twice in your calls and you had written it in your notes. She was smiling. But here's the thing about doing this as long as you have. You learn to read faces the way you read rooms, the way a house feels different when something's wrong, even before you find what it is. And something was wrong. She walked down the aisle on her father's arm. He was crying, the good kind. Guests were standing. The string quartet was playing something you can never remember the name of, the one everyone uses. She got to the altar. Daniel took her hands. He said something to her quietly, just for her. She laughed, small and quick. He squeezed her hands. You thought, okay, maybe you were wrong about the face. You started the ceremony. You got through the welcome. You got through the opening about what marriage means. You have a line you use about love being a daily choice, not a destination. And you always feel slightly embarrassed saying it, but it consistently makes someone in the 3rd row cry, so you keep it in. 3 minutes in. Everything was fine, and that's when you saw it. Not at you, but past you, at someone in the crowd. You didn't turn your head. You don't turn your head during the ceremony, but you shifted just enough, 2nd row, left side, a man you didn't recognize, sitting very still in a sea of people who were smiling or sniffling or leaning toward each other. He was not doing any of those things. He was watching Cara the way you watch something you are waiting on. You kept reading. You moved into the reading. Cara had chosen a poem. A guest named her cousin Priya stood up and read it beautifully. Everyone clapped softly when she sat back down. You glanced at Cara. Her jaw was tight in a way that wasn't emotion. It was the way a jaw looks when someone is concentrating very hard on staying in one place. But you were about to get to the part of the ceremony where you'd have to ask her directly. You moved to the vows. Daniel, you said, do you take Cara to be your lawfully wedded wife? He looked at her like she was the answer to something. That's the only way you know how to describe it. I do, he said. Cara, you said, do you take Daniel to be your lawfully wedded husband? She looked at you, and she mouthed it. Help me. The guests hadn't seen it. Daniel hadn't seen it. He was still looking at her with that open smile. Your brain ran through every option in about 1 second. Option 1 was to stop the ceremony, say there's a medical issue, clear the room. You had no idea if there was a medical issue. Option 2 was to keep going, wait for a private moment, and ask her directly. Option 3 was to ask her out loud, right now, in front of 200 people, if she was okay. You chose option 2. What you didn't know yet was that option 2 was going to be the hardest thing you'd done in 10 years of standing at the front of rooms like this. Cara, you said, do you take Daniel to be your lawfully wedded husband? I do, she said. Her voice was clear and steady, not a tremor in it. And you thought, maybe you misread it. Maybe she said something else. Maybe it was nerves, and she was asking for help in the vague existential way that people ask for help when they're overwhelmed and scared and standing in front of everyone they know. But Bev was about to make that easier to dismiss. You got to the rings. Bev appeared from the side and handed you the rings. She does this at every ceremony. She's precise about it. She always gives you a small nod, the one that means you're on track. She didn't nod. You felt it drop through you like cold water. Bev has seen everything. Bev does not get rattled. For Bev to not nod at you in a moment where she always nods at you meant something, but you still had a ceremony to finish. You moved through the ring exchange, both rings, both fingers. The guests made the warm noise they always make. 4 lines left before the pronouncement. You leaned forward just slightly, just enough that the angle of your face wouldn't be readable from the seats, and you looked directly at Cara. You said, still in your ceremony voice, pitched the way you always speak at the front of a room. Before I pronounce you, I want to offer a brief moment of reflection. It's not in the script. You've done it maybe 3 times. It buys maybe 30 seconds. And you said, very quietly, still facing forward, still looking like a professional doing your job. Cara, 1 word, yes or no, do you need a break? She looked at you, the longest 3 seconds of your professional life. And she said it. No. No, she said. I just need you to listen to me after. You completed the pronouncement. The room exploded in the way rooms explode at weddings. Someone cheered, someone else whistled. The string quartet started the processional. Cara was smiling. A real smile, or something close enough that you couldn't tell the difference. You stood at the front of the room with your ceremony papers, and you waited. Bev appeared. She wants to speak with you, Bev said, before photos. Bev led you to a small room off the main corridor, a sitting room, 2 chairs, a mirror, a table with untouched champagne on it. You had no idea what you were walking into, but you were about to find out. Cara was already there. She had taken off her veil. She was holding it in her lap like it was something she'd caught and wasn't sure what to do with. Daniel was not there. I need to tell you something, she said, and I need you to just listen first. You sat down. Okay, you said. She had met a man named Marcus 7 months ago. You want to be careful here about what to tell you and what not to, but the short version is this. Not a romantic situation. She was clear about that. She said it twice. Marcus was her brother's best friend. He'd been around for years, But 7 months ago, at a family dinner, he'd told her something about Daniel that her brother had accidentally let slip to him. She had spent the last 7 months trying to find out if it was true. She paused. You did not say anything. You had agreed to listen first. He had another relationship, she said. Not a full affair, but something. Someone he was still texting up until 4 months ago? I have the screenshots. He doesn't know I have them. She looked at you. I came this close to calling the whole thing off in February, she said. My mom talked me out of it. She said people make mistakes. She said he'd stopped. She said we'd already paid for everything. So I went through with it, she said, and I stood up there and I said I do because I love him, or I think I do, or I did. She stopped. I don't know anymore. You had expected her to cry at that point. She didn't. What do you need from me? You said. She laughed, small and sudden. I have no idea, she said. I just needed to say it to someone who doesn't know us, someone who wasn't going to cry or tell me what to do. I mouthed, help me, because I panicked, she said. But then I realized I didn't actually want to stop. I just wanted to be heard. Do you feel heard? You asked. She thought about it. Yeah, she said. I think I do. You talked for about 20 minutes. Not about Daniel specifically, not about what she should do. That wasn't your place, and she knew it. But about the thing she'd actually been carrying, which was bigger than the screenshots on her phone. She said she'd spent the last 7 months being a person who knew something no one else knew, and that the loneliness of that had been worse than the thing itself. You told her you thought that was probably true of most things that people carry in secret. She asked if you'd ever kept something like that, a thing that felt too big to say out loud. You told her yes. You told her everyone does. You told her the weight of it is always worse than the telling. Not because the telling fixes it, but because fixing isn't the point. Being known is the point. She nodded. But then she told you something you hadn't expected. She told you that Marcus, the man in the second row, the man who'd told her about the texts, had offered to sit with her today so that she didn't feel alone going in. That's why he was there. Not to stop the wedding, not to make anything worse, just to be a face she could find if she needed one. You thought about that for a second. Did it help? You said. Having him there? No, she said. I couldn't even look at him. Every time I tried, I just felt the whole thing again. So I looked at you instead. You didn't say anything to that. She stood up, picked up the veil, folded it differently, tighter, and held it against her side like a book. I'm going to go to my reception, she said. I'm going to dance with my husband, and at some point I'm going to have the actual conversation with him that I've been avoiding for 7 months. Not tonight, she said, but soon. She turned. Was this the weirdest wedding you've ever officiated? You told her no. You told her about the peony situation. She laughed. A real one, the kind that takes over the whole face for a second. Then she walked out. You stood in the hallway for a minute. Bev found you. She okay? Bev said. I think so, you said. Bev nodded. That was enough for both of you. You got a plate of food from the cocktail hour spread, sat at a small table near the back, watched the room. Cara and Daniel were dancing. He was a bad dancer in the good way, the way that means he doesn't care, and she was laughing at him with her head tilted back. She looked at him the way you look at someone you actually love, and you thought about what she'd said, not the screenshots, not the 7 months, but the other part, the being known part. The part about carrying something alone until it becomes heavier than the thing itself. You've stood at the front of 47 ceremonies. You've watched 47 people say I do to 47 other people, and every single time you think the same thing. They're not just saying yes to the person, they're saying yes to all of it, the version of the story they don't know yet, the things they'll find out, the conversations they haven't had, the mornings that won't be easy. You don't know what happens next for Cara and Daniel. You're not supposed to. That's not your part of the story. Your part was the front of that room with the ceremony papers and 2 words you weren't supposed to see. You've never told that story before, not because you're protecting anyone, but because some things take a while to understand what they actually were. That was a woman asking to be known for 1 minute before the rest of her life started. If you've ever carried something like that, you already know exactly what that costs.